to avoid an expensive hobby and instead run a profitable food business. Now let's jump in. Hey there, welcome back to the podcast. Happy to have you here today. Before I jump into today's topic, I want to share with you that I am hosting a free sales tax workshop coming up on March 29th. It is free, but space is limited. I just realized that I'm going to be exceeding the room capacity very soon. So you want to be sure that you get in on this free sales tax workshop. I have been talking with a number of clients and realizing that some of them have been overpaying and that money is gone where they didn't need to be paying it. And some people are not paying at all or underpaying or don't have things set up correctly for either direct to consumer or on their website or wholesale. So we want to be sure that you have this foundation of your business all dialed in. And it's so different from state to state and from by where you live and where other people live. There's some big rule changes going into place for some states this year. So we just want to be sure that you are on top of it and you feel confident that you have that all dialed in for your business. So you want to get yourself registered. It's foodbizsuccess.com/sales tax 2022. It's also on the homepage. You can find the button there to get registered, but you do want to get in quickly. You can purchase the replay. So if you can't be there live, not a problem. Very inexpensive replay purchase price. So it may be something you're going to want to come back to anyway. So go ahead and get in, get yourself registered, and I will see you live on March 29th to talk about this very important topic. As a food producer, you have some different rules that apply to you. So we're going to clear all of that up coming here soon. All right, back to the podcast. I was inspired to record this podcast. It was not the plan. This was not the topic I was going to talk about today, but I heard a short little podcast that really inspired me. I was like, this is the message I need to get out this week and record today. So this topic is really about your environment and how I see people have the most success. And really, it's the next level of my own personal involvement and how I've been able to turn on the gas in my own life and my own business, but also what I see happening inside food business success with the entrepreneurs that are in there, which is so exciting and fun. I want to talk first about the who you are surrounding yourself with. There are tons and tons of quotes out there as I did a little Google search. But first of all, the one that is always resonating in my mind, and I think it's really important that you just stop and kind of take inventory of this. But it's a great quote by Jim Rohn that says, "You become the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with." So just think about that for a minute in your own life. Who are you surrounding yourself with? Is it people who want you to kind of stay at the same level, the same place, and not stretch yourself, not grow? Are they negative people? Are they people who have a bad relationship with money? The results of your life right now to this point, wherever you are at in this moment, is related very much so to the people you are surrounding yourself with. I would also say that it's also your what you're surrounding yourself with. So I'll talk about that in a minute. But I love this concept of looking around and saying, yes, of course, it's you internally, but you are being influenced by people always around you. Oprah Winfrey, like if we're going to take advice personally for me from anybody, I'm going to say Oprah Winfrey is probably a good one to do so. Oprah says, surround yourself with only people who are going to lift you higher. We want to surround ourselves with people who have similar aspirations, right? And the more you can surround yourself, even if it's just one person, like maybe you have 5 people who are pretty negative. Could you swap out one person that has higher aspirations, that is more positive, is creating more money, right? I think you can also take that quote from Jim Rohn. I've seen it where your current income is based on the 5 people you surround yourself with. And I think that that's really true. I know for me, I am like a solo operator for most of my life. And I'm going to speak to you this way because I tend to attract people that are like me. I'm a high achiever. In school, I just would prefer to do projects myself, right? Because I didn't want to rely on other people, and other people don't, measure up to my standards. And so let me just do it myself. So I've always been pretty much a solo operator. Like I'm going to figure it out myself, good or bad, happy or sad, like whatever's going on. I just prefer to be alone. And I was never into sports, so I didn't do a lot of like community activities. That just was never how I gravitated. I will say that I, have a lot of sort of those limiting beliefs that I talked about on the tattoo podcast a couple episodes ago, but those limiting beliefs around I'm not good enough, people think I'm weird, that judgment from other people is has been really hard for me. And so I've really almost avoided any kind of group community. Now that all changed for me with COVID, actually, ironically. So as everything was locking down, I realized like I need to surround myself with other positive people. Like this is an opportunity, or it could be my detriment, where now that I'm like really alone, literally not able to go hang out with people, that this is a moment to seize an opportunity to build up a community, to be part of a community who sees this as great potential. And so I joined a mastermind at that point with my coach, Dave Moreno, who's been on this podcast. And so that was the beginning of sort of being like, maybe I should be, maybe I do need to surround myself with other people, kind of aspiring and working towards hard goals and doing big things, and who are entrepreneurs. And then that turned into one-on-one coaching, which if you're going to start anywhere, if you're very much a solo operator, get a coach. Like if that's the only thing you do, if you're like, I can't do a whole community, get a coach. A coach will help you see the forest from the trees, help you see your own bias that you're bringing into your business, your life. They will just kind of help you separate out your drama from the facts and help you with your mindset. So that's one layer of it. What I would say has really changed for me is opening myself up. And I got pretty far with the one-on-one coach, but as I mentioned, even with the tattoo podcast, was like this fall, there really was a transformation in me and how I began approaching my business and my life, and realizing that there are no rules, but that I belong. And that came from what really cracked me open was going to a retreat that my coach did, and the connection of going deep with other entrepreneurs in that way, where I was vulnerable, they were vulnerable, and we created this bond with many of them where we are keeping that alive today. We have a group Voxer channel, we have a Slack channel, like we are keeping in touch. I keep in touch with individuals from that group as well. And I really had to work through my own stuff of not belonging, because I will tell you that it took me a little bit before I was like contributing and just being me, where I was like,
people want to hear from me. I am part of this group. I belong here, right? I'm not something, it's like easy to be like, I'm something special and a unicorn, but in like a negative way. Like everybody wants to hear from everybody else except me, which is not true. So being a part of that group really helped me understand the power of community. And it's something that I have built in to food business success. And I am just really starting to see the power of that and how it is helping people be so much more successful than they would on their own. So I started group coaching, I think back in May of last 2021. And I will tell you, I really have seen the group coming together, the group growing as we add new members, and it's getting bigger. But then people are, we have a worksheet, a spreadsheet where people are putting in their contact information, and they're having connection outside of the group, and they're buying each other's products, which is so fun. They're supporting each other. We have our private Facebook group where people are posting their wins and we're cheering them on. And I would say that this, like surrounding yourself, again, going back to like the people you currently surround yourself with, looking at them and saying, is that really serving me to get to the next level? Or are they just kind of keeping me in the status quo? Because we know that being an entrepreneur is really about stretching yourself. It's about doing really hard things, learning new things, being out of your comfort zone all the time, a lot of the time. Doing things you never have done before. And so, yes, knowledge is fantastic, right? And I offer a lot of knowledge and expertise in food business success, but I would say that community element is hands down where I see people just like leaping and bounding over over their current situation and really creating their goals, like really creating results. And I saw this in action even more when I took a group of 11, there was 11 people, I invited them to come to Fancy Food Show with me, and we would attend as a group. And the connections, I mean, yes, they got to spend time with me and I provided a ton of value, but really what was so amazing and so cool was the connections with each other. It is something invaluable. You cannot buy these kind of connections. You just have to be in it. You have to contribute. You have to show up, and you have to be willing to give and receive. And we went to dinner one night, and everybody was like, I was in the middle, and I just sat back and closed my eyes and was listening to all the conversations and all the support. And I just saw people's energy raise, right? And I was like, oh my gosh, what is possible now because of this feeding of energy and community and support and cheering each other on is just something totally next level if they're willing to stay in it and keep connecting. So I had to do a section on like who you surround yourself with. Now, food business success might not be your place. There are other community groups. I've been finding lots more Slack channels, different, Food Bevy. Jordan was on the podcast. And there is a piece of like getting help with expertise, like I'm looking for a broker, or who do you recommend for a graphic designer, or those kind of things. But what I think is really unique that I'm trying to cultivate in food business success is that celebrating your wins, is the community, man, I'm having a rough time. It's been a rough couple weeks. When will I finally get that first wholesale account? It was so cool. Yvonne was in our group coaching a couple weeks ago, and we were talking through her wholesale strategy with her tea, and she's trying to get into wholesale, and she was just like, when is it going to happen? I just need one. And she was getting no's, and like the group was supporting her and giving her ideas and cheering her on. And I helped her with a strategy. And then she reached out and said, and I saw in her stories, I got my first one. And in fact, she got 2 in the first day. And just that we can all as a community really cheer her on. And then it's going to ebb and flow, right? She's going to be like, oh my gosh, like now I can't get 3 or I can't get that one next one, or something happens, right? Like that's what being in business is all about, right? Solving problems, but having that group to help cheer you on and support you and lift you up when things get really hard too. So important. One thing I do want to caution you on is sometimes when we surround ourselves with high achieving people who are kind of next level, that they can be very inspiring, of course. And that is exactly how we want to utilize people, right? If our lives are the sum of 5 people and who we spend the most time with, like spending time with people who are kind of next level, creating their big business, doing the hard things, doing the social media, and showing up the way that we want to show up, that can be very inspiring. One thing I want to just say is that you have to be a little careful that you have to kind of watch yourself that you don't fall into compare and despair, right? That like, oh, they're all doing it. And what's wrong with me? Why is it taking so long? I'm not good enough, all that stuff, right? And that's very easy to do with other people. And of course, on social media. We talked about it a little bit when I was talking about going into Fancy Food Show, like walking in there with an intention to be inspired rather than to kind of use it as a excuse to beat yourself up and tear yourself down. So just be mindful that when you are engaging in community, which I do really think is so important, but when you are engaging that way, that you are using it as fuel and inspiration and not as a way to tear yourself down and make yourself feel less than, because ultimately what's going to happen when you feel that way? Well, probably nothing. So just a word of caution there. So that's the who, and I just want to offer and invite you to come into Food Business Success and be a part, and you belong. This is a place of belonging, of support, and it can be so lonely as a solopreneur, even as a partnership. We have quite a few partners that join as well, whether it's a married couple or just friends or business partners. You still need to get out of that and get different perspectives, but be a part of a group. So if you're wanting that piece, I invite you to come on in. The other thing I want to talk about is the what you surround yourself with. Now, you're already listening to this podcast, so congratulations on surrounding yourself, at least for the next, the next 15 minutes of this podcast, with positivity, with things coming into your ears and your brain that are going to lift you up and serve you. I think it's, it can be really challenging in this world. We are biased to negativity. That is the way our brain is wired. And we have a thing called confirmation bias, where when we see the world one way, like we go out and we try to affirm it and we see only the negative. So I'm sure you know people who are very negative, right? Who are always complaining, always something going on, always drama. And it's like, you're kind of like, what is wrong with them? Like, why do they always have something? They solve one problem, they get through one thing, and then, the next phone call is another thing. And you kind of recognize like, I think there might be a pattern here, right? And so we can see it in other people pretty easily, where I'm sure you also know people who are super positive, right? And they seem to have like all those great things that always happen to them. Listen, everybody has negative things and everybody has positive things. And it's just your attitude. It's how you see the world and what you are looking for. So I really do believe if you are looking for the positive, if you're looking for the learning, even in failure, right? Even when you fail, but you can see that sort of silver lining of it, that your life you're going to experience more of it. There's actually a very fancy term called the reticular activating system, where you are Like your brain is literally like, the world is good, so I'm looking for good. And the world is negative, so I'm looking for negative. And it's going to go out and find it. What you seek, you find, right? And so I noticed in myself, and I actually did this kind of early when I really got serious about my business. When I launched Food Business Success, I noticed that I was waking up, and so this would be early 2019. And my routine was to turn on NPR and listen to the news and make coffee and yada yada. So I realized that like I was kind of starting my day out pretty heavy, pretty negative. There was, a lot going on in the world, and whatever your politics, right? It is what it is. Like there was lots going on politically and, obviously pre-COVID and everything, but I realized like this is not a good way for me to start my day. And I always value being really informed and educated about world events and current happenings. But I just decided, I said, for now, I need to limit this. I have to just stop this practice. This is not setting me up for success and in my day. I was having very negative thoughts about the world and everything going on in it, which was creating a negative bias, right, in my life and helping me look for the negative. And so my business felt really hard and, just grunting and grinding it through. So I just stopped all of that. And I just said, I'm not for a little while here while I'm working on launching Food Business Success. I'm just going to stop. Like I'm going to replace it with routines that are much more positive. And I just kind of had to get over my ego of like, I'm a highly informed person. I'm just like, for a little while, I need to focus on my business. I need to focus on me and my mental health. So I replaced that with different routines. I replaced that with meditation, with mantras, like success mantras. I replaced it with positive mindset podcast, similar to what I do now. This is why I do the podcast that I do. I bring you experts and we have great interviews, but it's like every other episode or so, it's about positive mindset and like how you can create success and tools and just those mindset pieces, right? So I really started there. I actually, just in case you're wondering, if you're curious, I really started with the Life Coach School with Brooke Castillo. I started with her. I heard about her on another podcast and was like, I'm going to check her out. And I just really loved, she really transformed my life and set me on a path of feeling better, of achieving more, having more fun doing it. And not just in my business, but my life, like my life changed. And so that's where I started. And since then, it's opened up a lot to other things. I ended up becoming certified through her school as a life coach. And now I'm surrounding myself, like I said, with these other amazing people who really lift me up. So I want you to think about how much negativity you are bringing into your life. Now, the other place, of course, is maybe the news, but also social media. So how much time are you spending scrolling through social media? Do not make this, don't check your email, don't check social media, don't start listening to the news first thing. Replace your morning routine. If you do any of those things, replace it with something way more positive, way more productive. The way we start our day is how we're going to move through it most of the time. And so we get to choose, am I going to start it with positivity? So please, 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 if you do anything else, just that first 30 minutes, an hour, can you replace it with a much more positive experience and routine? I've talked about, I write about 20, 30 minutes a day. I make my tea. So just to back up, I start out with a mantra. Some people start out with meditation. So I listen to that while I'm in bed, kind of set myself up. That first thing that I'm thinking about in the day as I'm waking up is positivity, right? And positive mindset phrases. And so, an interesting, like I've gone to the point where I actually recorded it in my own voice. So it's pretty cool. It's like me talking to myself, but there's lots of great ones out there on YouTube. And I really like Insight Timer as well. That's a free app, and there's lots of great meditations and mantras. So I start there, make my tea, and then I write for a little bit. And I write, I always go through this statement that I got from The Big Leap, where I expand my abundance, success, and love every day. And that's really about like, how can I move the thermometer up in my own life to go bigger, to achieve more, to have more fun, to increase my abundance. So that's just one idea of a place to start. I find writing to be very good for me as a way to kind of set up my day. And then I do an exercise where I light that flame in me, right? And it's kind of a physical exercise. And there's lots of science between doing a physical thing and saying words that you believe, but that are, the next level, like that uplifting yourself, that your brain physical connection really gets it when you add in that physical piece. So I have an exercise where it's called Power 5. Tony Robbins has it's adapted from Tony Robbins. And if you go to tonyrobbins.com/priming, you can get the full thing. It's longer than the one I do, but, so that's how I start on my day. And then I also set my 5 big rocks, the things that have to get done today. I will do these things no matter what. They are the things that move me forward in my business. I mean, for me, it's my business. It could be also just personal life things for you. But it's usually things that like I don't necessarily want to do, things that I know I should do, but they're a little harder. They push me out of my comfort zone. So they need to be very specific. They need to be measurable. You can't just say work on social media. Like, what specifically are you going to do? I'm going to create a post or a reel. And I'm going to post it today, right? So write out your 5 big things. Some people say 3 things. So 3 to 5 things. I do 5. And I do have my, there's a podcast, I'll have to link it here in the show notes, where I offer you a tool that I use that's like my Power 5 tool. So that's just one example of like surrounding yourself with a higher quality of experience of the what in your life. So just think about kind of your emotions, your typical emotions through your week. What are your top 3? If they are a little more on the negative side of things, frustration, anxiety, sadness, just a little more negative, right? Disappointment, judgment, self-judgment, all those really fun emotions. If those are the 3 emotions, like if your top 3 emotions are more skewed towards the negative, I really think you need to think about how can you redesign your life, because there's a great quote. I don't know who said it off the top of my head, but it's basically like the experience of your life is the quality of your emotions. And so I want to just offer that the who you surround yourself with and the inputs make a huge difference in your productivity, your action, the things you do, and how you show up. You're going to notice pretty quickly if you swap out some of your negative people or negative influences, that there's going to be a lightness, more confidence, more willingness to even embrace some negative emotion. When we think about emotions on a spectrum where we have really, really negative ones, and then there's some kind of like determination, commitment, motivation. Those aren't necessarily super positive, they are actually potentially a little more skewed on the negative side. And that's okay. That can fuel us, right? To do things we don't necessarily want to do, to force us to sit down and stop procrastinating, right? Determination, motivation. So I just want to encourage you to kind of look, even just maybe start with just becoming aware, go through this week and just notice. You don't have to make any changes yet, but just notice what's around you. What are you surrounding yourself with? Who are you surrounding yourself with? And are they helping you to create a mindset of confidence and capability and motivation and determination and resourcefulness? That's what we need as we start and grow our food business. Those are the emotions that are going to fuel you. And they start with your thoughts. And your thoughts come from what you surround one place, not necessarily the only place, but one of the places that our thoughts are really sort of thunk for us, if you will, is the inputs, the people, and the other environmental things that we surround ourselves with. So we get to choose those. And yes, you could say, well, I don't get to choose my family, right? I don't get to choose my mom, well, or my dad or my aunt or, whoever you spend a lot of time with. But you do get to decide how much time you're going to spend with them and what you're going to take in and internalize. And you can steer the conversation into a more positive place. And you could set some boundaries that when they go to a negative place where they're like, I used to have friends when I first started my business that I remember one friend was like, why are you doing this? This is going to be like, nobody's ever successful that I've ever seen doing like a consulting business and running doing a W-9 business. It was really interesting. And I was like, and it was so funny. She was an entrepreneur herself. So I was like, what? And she's like, yeah, it just never really works out. Like, I don't recommend it. And I realized like, that's probably not a great person to surround myself with, right? Or like, if she starts talking that way, then I excuse myself, right? I'm not going to internalize it. I'm going to stop the conversation or I'm going to redirect it. Like that's not a good input for me to help me feel that motivated, committed, all those good things, right? The thought, when I adopt the thought of like, this never really works out for anybody, think about the feeling that generates, right? The feeling's going to be very like, why am I even trying? It's kind of defeated, not motivated, procrastination, which isn't really a feeling, but it might lead to anxiety, right? Doubt, confusion, questioning. All right. So I don't want to belabor this, but I want to just really encourage you to look over your week. Just go through this week observing and making kind of mental notes or even writing it down. Think about your top 3 emotions that you generally experience throughout your week. And then you get to decide. You do have power over this. I think one of the worst things we can feel is that we're powerless. And I want to just offer you that you do have power. You do have choice. And sometimes those decisions can be hard, but it doesn't mean we don't have choice. So how can you take back your power, own your day a little bit more, own your mental state? Maybe you're not going to get all the way to daisies and rainbows and like, I'm so excited and I feel amazing about this. But can you get to a feeling that is going to really drive some big actions forward? All right. I will leave it there. I would love if you are interested in joining a community and surrounding yourself with other people doing the same work who are, further along than you, some of them, you may be further along than them, but we can all lift each other up and you are going to raise your emotion, your feeling of connection and belonging and being enough inside food business success. That is something I'm so proud of. And it's just something that's going to continue to evolve as we grow this more. So you can always join me inside foodbizsuccess.com. And until next time, have an amazing week.
Are you ready to start that delicious idea that you make in your home kitchen or grow your existing packaged food business and take it to the next level? The most successful food business entrepreneurs have support, guidance, focus, and accountability to help them make it happen quickly without wasting time or money. Plus, I think starting your packaged food business should actually be fun. Food business success is your secret ingredient to creating your food business dream. Please don't go this alone. Check out the private free Food Business Success Facebook group to connect with other foodpreneurs, get your questions answered quickly, share your wins, and receive special training and tools I only share inside the private community. Just search for Food Business Success on Facebook or get the link in the show notes. Curious about how Food Business Success can help you? Head over to foodbizsuccess.com and fill out the application to see if you're a great fit for the program. Together, let's make your food business dream a reality.